Welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show, recording this episode on Sunday, December 8th, and it'll hopefully be out Monday the 9th. So we had a crazy weekend of two wild, insane matches and a total of 13 goals between these two matches. Chelsea beat Spurs 4-3 in the Premier League, and Bayern beat Heidenheim 4-2 in the Bundesliga. Let's talk about all of that.
Insane day, and I'm coming off the high right now of Chelsea beating Spurs. But Bayern also did pick up that nice victory as expected. Just a huge weekend in terms of the amount of goals, the sheer volume of goals. Great to see as a fan.
Agree. It was a lot of fun, and like I said, both of these matches were kind of weird and kind of insane for maybe different reasons, but let's start off and talk about Bayern's match, as that was the first match of the weekend between Bayern and Chelsea on Saturday. And I'll start off here by going through Bayern Munich's lineup, because at the moment Bayern Munich is decimated with injuries. So it was, maybe not exactly what you'd expect as a fan or what you've been accustomed to seeing so far from the Bavarians. So in between the sticks, we started with Daniel Peretz, as Neuer and Ulreich are both, I guess Neuer's injured and Sven is out for personal reasons at the moment. But yeah, Peretz did not have the best game, unfortunately. We'll talk about that as we go break down the match. But we did see Sacha Boey return to the starting lineup at right back. Dayot Upamecano and Kim Min-jae, as always, were the center backs, and Alphonso Davies was the left back. Joshua Kimmich and Alexander Pavlovic were in the midfield. Great to see Pavlovic back in the starting lineup as well. He's really a difference maker for this team. And then the attacking quartet, I'm going to list off how I think they were lined up / how they mostly played, but I think it was clear if you watched this match that Vincent Kompany just told these four guys, hey, just feel free to drift around and occupy whatever space you want, because none of these guys really played any sort of regular position. But we saw Michael Olise mostly at the right wing, Raphael Guerreiro sort of at the 10, and Leroy Sane sort of at the left wing, and then Thomas Muller started up top, I guess, as the striker, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, kind of an interesting lineup. I just feel like Muller, it's crazy to me, he's still starting these games and playing as much as he is. Just a testament to who he is.
Yeah, it's true. And, Muller, again, didn't have his best match. Part of the reason why he's starting is because Bayern has so many injuries. Coman, Gnabry, Tell, all these attacking players, Kane, are injured. And obviously, Kompany wanted to give Musiala some rest, as he's been playing 90 minutes and Bayern's been playing 2 matches a week. So Muller got the start. And like I said, I don't think he had his best match. He wasn't bad by any means, but he just wasn't contributing to the attack as much as, somebody like Musiala was.
Yeah, that's a good point. Musiala has done it all pretty much the entire year for Bayern, so it's always good to get a guy like that some rest, especially playing against a team in Heidenheim who has, unfortunately for them, not had the greatest year thus far, although I do respect that team. But yeah, and I guess Muller didn't even play that much, really only played 51 minutes, but still crazy to see.
Yeah, Heidenheim started off the year very strong, but as you mentioned, as of late, they've been really, spinning out of control, maybe, if I want to use a little bit of an aggressive metaphor, but they have not looked good as of late. And honestly, the beginning of this match, neither did Bayern. It was clear that Kane and Musiala were sorely missed from the starting lineup, as, Bayern was dominating possession, as they always have done this year for the most part, and as you'd expect them to do against a team like Heidenheim, but the attack just seemed a little bit stale to start. Like I said, the four attackers were really interchanging, and they were kind of getting their feet under them, but we did see a few missed shots. Sane had a couple of missed shots in the beginning, and Muller also had a shot that I think, he'd like to have back.
Yeah, just looking at the stats, crazy in that first half. Bayern did have some chances where Heidenheim had 0 shots in the first half. So the start that you were looking to see in terms of that control you mentioned, but maybe not seeing the result on the score sheet necessarily, but did eventually come for Bayern, which is always good.
Yeah, I don't know what the possession was in the first half, but watching as a fan, it seemed like it was 90% to Bayern to maybe 10% Heidenheim. I don't know if you have the stats up. My actual guess would probably be like 85-15, but
86-14 in the first half, 83-17 total in the match.
yeah, I mean, it really seemed like Heidenheim never had the ball, and part of that was Bayern's ball recovery time was so fast. I don't have the number for how quickly they recovered the ball, but it seemed like it was less than 5 seconds, maybe less than 10 seconds. I don't know, at least in that first half. And, we finally did see a goal happen in the 18th minute from a corner. Joshua Kimmich put the ball right up. There was a pick kind of play. I can't remember who was I think it was actually Muller who was maybe kind of doing the pick. But anyways, Upamecano runs around and essentially gets a free header, which he buries in the bottom right-hand corner of the net. And this was an Arsenal-esque set piece. I mean, this was just an absolutely perfectly run, straight from the training pitch set piece for Bayern Munich.
Yeah, always good when you can dominate set pieces. Bayern typically do a pretty solid job. I know you haven't necessarily been pleased with Kimmich all the time this season, but they seem to have the players that can put balls in good spots, and whether you're scoring directly off of the corner or, it bounces around, whatever the case may be, it seems like they always have players that put themselves in those good positions to score goals.
Yeah, so the first half, Bayern could have had more than one goal. Like I said, and like we kind of laid out here with the story of possession, but that's really how the first half ended. Bayern dominating the match, but only with one goal to show for it. And then things did not start off well in the second half. The 50th minute, we saw a massive miscommunication between Upamecano and Peretz. Peretz does not play the same way that Neuer plays, and you can't expect him to, but it's clear that the way Bayern's defense is set up, it's set up really where everything goes through Neuer in terms of back passes, in terms of communication, and that just wasn't there with Peretz. So we did see Upamecano try to pass a ball back to Peretz, not enough on the pass, and the ball is essentially stolen. Not even stolen, I guess, just goes right to a Heidenheim defender who can get there before Peretz can, lays the ball in the back of the net, and it's 1-1 at that point in the 50th minute.
Yeah, just a brilliant goal to score from that position if you're the Heidenheim player. I mean, not many can score with a wide open net, an XG of .97, so credit to him, because that .03, there are players that would have made that happen.
Yeah, maybe so. I wasn't exactly sure where you were going with that, but that's pretty funny. And yeah, then right after that, we saw Kompany do what ended up being, I guess, the moment of the match, in my opinion, which was he brought on Jamal Musiala, the difference maker in this match. The difference maker really for Bayern this season, I guess, outside of Harry Kane. And yeah, Jamal Musiala comes on in the maybe 52nd or 51st minute, pretty much seemed right after that goal. And then, 5 minutes later, 6 minutes later, 55th or 56th minute, Jamal Musiala scores his first goal of the match off of a steal and then an assist from Olise. And it was, instant impact, instant difference making by Jamal Musiala.
Yeah, and that was a great maneuver. It was just when I had kind of started paying more attention while awaiting the Marquette game. Shout out to them for a huge win. But Musiala, the way he was able to just keep carrying the ball and then slot a shot in there, maybe not the greatest defending. I mean, they could have had somebody step up in a better way and try to block that shot. But it's really tough when you shoot low like that and can get it in that position. So I'm not going to place too much blame on Heidenheim for that. But Musiala just showing all the time why he has been probably their most important player so far, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you can argue with that. I think it is close between Kane, Musiala, and Kimmich, but Pavlovic might be up there as well. But I said this in my short reaction to this match on YouTube, but you gotta just give Musiala whatever he wants if you're Bayern. Let him play the 10 every single match if he wants to. pay him however much you can, give him the keys to the city. I mean, at this point, you do whatever you can not to lose him. So he comes on again, gets that goal back, puts Bayern back in the lead, and then in the 70th minute, we saw Leon Goretzka and Kingsley Coman come on. That's kind of funny. Coman, come on. It almost sounds like a tongue twister. But, Goretzka made an impact as well, because the 84th minute, Goretzka got a goal, assisted from Leroy Sane. There was kind of a deflection in there. I think it went off of the Heidenheim defense, and so the keeper was jumping the complete wrong way. Nonetheless, Goretzka found himself in the right place at the right time and put a good shot in. Happy for him, because I feel like he's had so many shots this year that have just barely missed, and, he certainly put his stamp on this match.
Yeah, that's kind of a typical CDM type goal where you end up getting a shot from outside the box somewhere and it deflects off a defender and goes in. And as you put it correctly, it's great to just get a shot into that zone. You're not going to complain if it deflects off. It's still a goal. It's not like it's an own goal. So ultimately for Goretzka, it's awesome to see. He'll be happy with that. And that's another player that you were glad you kept on your team because you've needed him a lot this year already. And he's showing that, maybe he deserves a spot in this team. I'm not saying he's going to start every match, but, you just need depth. And at times, Bayern has needed that depth, and we'll see going forward that they really will.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I kind of mentioned that too at the, in the summer, beginning of the season, when everybody was counting Goretzka out. And sure, this might be sort of his swan song with Bayern Munich, I guess. I don't want to say that at this moment because there's still a lot of season left. But, Pavlovic is healthy now. Eventually, Paulinho will be healthy again. So we'll see what happens with Goretzka. I don't think he'll be part of the squad next season, but I think there's a good chance he stays through the winter and for the rest of this year. And, I like how he plays. I don't think he should be a starter, but I do think that he deserves a spot on this roster. But his contribution, Bayern's 2-goal lead, did not stay for very long, because a minute later, in the 85th minute, Heidenheim got a goal right back, and it really just seemed like Bayern turned things off for a second. It was a lack of effort / maybe a miscommunication, but it just looked like a lack of effort from Alphonso Davies. And I'm not going to rip on the man too much, because I think he's had a stellar season under Vincent Kompany, been one of the most important players on this team. But he looked like the Davies of last season for a second there, and also just not a good effort by Peretz. I think a lot of the fans who are constantly clamoring for Peretz to start over Neuer might have a little bit of trepidation going forward now.
Yeah, Peretz certainly showed that he's not Manuel Neuer. He's showing Bayern that without Neuer, when he's hurt, potentially next year and going forward, that they're going to need to take a look at the goalkeeper position.
It is what it is, but we did see that 2-goal lead happen again in stoppage time in the 91st minute, where Rafa Guerreiro had a beautiful pass to Alphonso Davies. Jamal Musiala, looking like Alphonso Davies with the speed, who ran, across basically half the pitch, stayed onside, and, slotted things right in there at the end to make it the final score of 4-2. But what a crazy match.
Good for Bayern to get that 2-goal lead back. Not that it mattered necessarily a ton. We know Heidenheim wasn't probably going to get any more shots off, but for Musiala to get on the score sheet twice there, absolutely huge. Comes in later in the match. I shouldn't say later in the match, but doesn't start, comes off the bench cold, still shows that he can do whatever he wants at this point, especially against lesser opposition. Players like this wake up and think and know that they're going to feast on opponents. You're going to be breaking ankles all day with the way he can dribble. And today he showed a couple goals that maybe I'm not used to seeing. He usually does more in the box more, and today showed that his goal catalog is pretty deep.
Yeah, he is certainly becoming, especially this year. He was always a world-class talent, one of the best young players, whatever title you want to throw on him. But this year, in particular, Jamal Musiala is becoming an all-around unstoppable talent. So yeah, the only other thing that really happened in this match was in the 92nd minute, we did see Konrad Laimer and Ibrahimovic come on for, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds before the final whistle. So now Bayern looks ahead to Shakhtar in the Champions League this Tuesday, and then Mainz in the Bundesliga after that. And Bayern, as I mentioned, is looking depleted. Alphonso Davies and Kingsley Coman both picked up injuries this match, which will sideline them for the rest of the calendar year, which is a big bummer. So we just got to hold on and get to that winter break and then kind of reassess after that.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of talk this week. We've exchanged some talk about Mykhailo Mudryk and his journey over into Eastern Europe, but you have to wonder if he'll be watching this Bayern match. He's been rumored to have admirers at Bayern Munich, potentially wanting him on loan. Who knows if those are true, but them going against his former club, kind of an interesting note there. So something to note for the listeners out there.
Yeah, we'll see how things go. I guess follow us on Twitter, because once I have a chance to wrap my head around the roster with the injuries, I'll put out my projected lineup and match preview and all that stuff for this match. But, Bayern really does need these 3 points in the Champions League if they want to have any shot at making that top 8 and advancing directly to the next round. So it'll be a good match to watch. And again, just got to keep winning in the Bundesliga, got to keep that, I believe at this point, 6-point lead at the top of the table since Frankfurt drew this weekend. But yeah, I got a few match awards to give out here, starting with what I think is obvious man of the match, Jamal Musiala.
Couldn't agree more, and nothing left to say about that, man.
Yeah, I wanted to give my Robin to Kimmich. I don't even know what else to say about this man, because everything flows through him at Bayern Munich. He's involved seemingly every single time Bayern has the ball. Everything flows through him. The Energizer Bunny playing every minute of the season so far for Bayern Munich. And I really do think that with Kimmich and Pavlovic back starting in the midfield, things looked a lot better in that portion of the game. And not any disrespect to Goretzka or Laimer or Polina, even anybody else who was filling in for Pavlovic, but the bond and the chemistry that Kimmich and Pavlovic have is special, and that midfield looks great now.
Yeah, that's going to be massive going forward. Kimmich, who has played so much this season, Pavlovic just coming back. We still don't know if there needs to be an investigation on how he came back so early, but that is massive to have those two humming together in that midfield. We know how important the midfield can be for any team. You need to control it, and Bayern will look to do that with those two. So I didn't necessarily have any other main awards to give out, but I do just want to shout out those two, especially Pavlovic, for really racing to get back, and we know how important he will be for this team.
Yeah, I did want to give the underrated award to Rafa Guerreiro, because I thought he had a brilliant match, especially playing that 10 position to start, sort of 10, sort of not 10, as we talked about, but I mean, he can play everywhere on the pitch, and I thought he was a great contributor to the attack. But yeah, I'm just overall looking forward to how things function with this midfield, and then with Musiala at the 10. Regardless of how poor the finishing looks from our attackers, I don't want to go on another diatribe about that, but the finishing from these attackers, I guess mostly the wingers, I should say, Sane, Coman and Gnabry. Olise has been meh lately at finishing, but, Bayern has to find other ways to score and to win, and one of those ways was from my defender of the match, which was Upamecano. Even though he made that mistake basically to allow a goal, he also scored a goal and just looked so solid throughout the rest of the match.
Yeah, and as big of a mistake as that was, new keeper coming in, less chemistry, worse communication. Guarantee there was worse communication. He's not Manuel Neuer, Peretz I'm talking about here. So I'm not going to place too much blame on Upa, and he obviously did make up for it with the goal as well.
Yeah, and to be clear, I kind of trashed Peretz a little bit earlier. Nothing against the guy. He just doesn't seem to me like he's ready for the starting role at Bayern Munich. For the record, I also think Alexander Nubel is not ready for that role either. The loanee to Stuttgart. I watched the Stuttgart match this weekend. Exciting match, by the way. And Nubel missed a ball right through his hands to allow a goal. Seems to make one or two big mistakes every time I watch him. So, again, a conversation for a different day, but Bayern's keeper situation will be something to look forward to / look at going forward. But let's talk about Chelsea now, because an equally, if not more exciting match just took place as we record this.
Yeah, talk about an interesting, crazy, chaotic, absurd at times match. The first 16 minutes, I'm sitting with my beautiful girlfriend just thinking, man, I hate to say it, but this is going to ruin my day. The way I am as a sports fan, I was explaining to her, you got to deal with the highs and the lows, the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows as a passionate fan. And some people don't understand that, but I think you and I both do. And those first 16 minutes, man, Chelsea were outplayed, outclassed, out-physicaled, just poor, sloppy passes left and right from basically every player. And it led straight to 2 Spurs quick goals. It was insane at the start.
It was insane. And, my moment of the match actually came before that opening whistle blew, because my moment of the match was when Marc Cucurella laced up his boots. And we did see 2 slips from Cucurella in the beginning of the match that pretty much directly led to goals. Now, poor keeping by Sanchez for sure. The first 15 or so minutes, I guess 17 minutes, because, that's how long it took until Chelsea got going. But Chelsea's midfield, Chelsea's backline, Chelsea's keeper, Robert Sanchez, all looked awful, except for Lavia, I should say, because Spurs came out with this insane press where they were just bull rushing Chelsea every time they had the ball. And, I will say I was texting you that I didn't think this type of style was sustainable. I think if you're Spurs, what you have to do is get those early goals and then kind of switch and lock things down, which is a lot easier said than done. But, man, that press from Spurs in the beginning was aggressive, and Chelsea did not have answers for it.
Yeah, it was a good press. I won't lie. They were making guys like Benoit Badiashile, who ended up getting the start at right center back in place of the injured Fofana, making him look very dicey at times. He had a couple mistakes with passes that didn't end up leading to goals, but could have very easily. This back line where you're having Caicedo invert as the right back, Cucurella on the left, who's been so strong, but him and Colwell on that left side, they just didn't start out well, the entire back line. And Enzo and Lavia, I think, even in that first 16 minutes, weren't maybe terrible, but because that back line was so bad, including Sanchez in that back line, because many times he's essentially a center back with the way Maresca wants him to play the ball out, just sloppy, and really looked like it was going to be a long, long day if Spurs could keep it up.
Yeah, I think the thing about the midfield in the beginning of the match, and this goes the other way too, it's the same for Spurs' midfield, there almost wasn't a midfield. The way that Spurs' shape was, and I don't know exactly what Chelsea was trying to do. I mean, usually, especially when Caicedo's in the midfield there, and he kind of was inverting today, things look different for Chelsea, but it was so strange and so open and so chaotic and so disorganized in that beginning that it seemed like there was almost just 2 ends of the pitch, offense and defense, and there was almost no midfield to speak of.
And not to mention, that first goal, for example, Cucurella slips, Johnson immediately can pick up the ball, and the midfield can't even get involved there because they're behind the play. If you're losing the ball in possession so far back there, your midfield can't even help you out. Johnson whips it in. Good goal by Solanke, to be fair, albeit poor keeping and maybe a little bit of poor defending on Colwell's part. But even that second goal for Spurs where Kulusevski gets it back and he slots it in, there's just not much you can do when you got guys slipping because they're wearing incorrect cleats and you got poor passing by all your defenders.
Yeah, I don't even know what else to say except the passing from that back line just did not seem like it could handle the level of press that Spurs was putting on them. But the thing is, when you are pressing that aggressively, you're going to leave some holes, and there was a lot of space. There was a lot of room for counterattacks and just long balls and maybe a series of quick short passes to open things up for Chelsea, and that's kind of what we saw happen.
Yeah, and at that point, I'm thinking this could just be an insane day. But I think Spurs being Spursy is maybe what led Chelsea back in this game, because little by little, you could see Chelsea start to take control. They end the first half having 67% possession, and you wouldn't have guessed that based on the first 16 minutes, because the rest of what is that, about a half hour of gameplay, Chelsea just started to take control back. And maybe not my moment of the match quite yet, but a mini moment of the match comes in that 17th minute where Jadon Sancho, who had a lot of space on that left-hand side, is able to cut in, and he looked great cutting in a lot in kind of the first 60 minutes-ish of the match, cuts in and unleashes a great strike past Forster for that first goal for Chelsea. Huge, 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 huge. Cannot be overstated how big that was to get them back in the game.
Yeah, that was just a brilliant cut, a brilliant shot, a brilliant run by Sancho there. It was all Sancho. I mean, that's why you have him on your squad. And I thought Sancho had a very, very solid match all throughout. That was the big moment for him, but maybe even a saving moment, you could say, for Chelsea at that point. But throughout the whole match, Sancho was making moves and making cuts, and he was just dicing through the defense.
He really was. He looked really great at times. I thought Neto had some moments as well on the opposite wing. Some balls that maybe he usually puts on a better spot for guys swinging them in. Certainly wasn't poor. So that was good, because a lot of people wanted Madueke to start. I thought that maybe would have made sense with Neto on the left, but Sancho kind of proved that he was the man for the moment.
Yeah, I did like this lineup. I mean, it's no secret that I like to see both Neto and Sancho at the same time for the dichotomy of what they can bring and how different their styles are and how much it can, I think, challenge the defense to pay so much attention to those two. And then, not to mention, you also have one of the best players in the world in Cole Palmer to try to track and pay attention to as well. So just overall, I liked this lineup by Enzo, and we'll probably get to it, but I liked a lot of the adjustments he made at halftime as well.
Yeah, and to wrap up that first half, as we kind of discussed, ends up remaining at 2-1 Spurs going into halftime. Chelsea didn't have any major chances besides the Sancho one. Palmer kind of whiffed on a shot that he knows he needs to put away, so I don't think that even gets registered as he didn't get a shot off. But the key for me was how Lavia and Enzo were able to dominate the midfield after Sancho gets that first Chelsea goal. And even though they didn't put another on the board, they kept the Spurs side off of the score sheet, and that was huge, just going into halftime only down a goal.
Yeah, I agree. And with such a weird first half, it was, and especially going down 1-2 into halftime, going into half, I almost thought that Chelsea had the better chance. Just how things turned up at the end of the first half there, it was becoming clearer and clearer that Spurs couldn't keep up this level of intense pressing without leaving openings on the other end, and eventually Chelsea was going to figure things out. Also coupled with a series from both teams, I thought, of weird, bad challenges that, I don't know, could have been cards, maybe should have been, depending on who you ask, but just some weird defensive lapses, I thought.
Yeah, at points in the game, Caicedo and Kulusevski both could have been sent off with red cards. I'm glad they weren't. Could they have been? Sure. Should they? Who knows? With Anthony Taylor and the PGMOL and the way they do things in the Premier League. But, the start of the second half, Enzo Maresca says, all right, I'm taking off Lavia and I'm putting on Gusto. Immediately I'm like, okay, I thought Lavia was fantastic. I don't love this decision, but I see what he was trying to do, and that's kind of make sure Cucurella is not isolated on the left. Even if it's a direct sub Gusto for Cucurella, Gusto at left back is going to be isolated out there with Caicedo inverting. So if you then instead say, okay, I'm going to invert Cucurella, he won't be isolated as a left back. Gusto, I'm going to have in his favored right back spot. He'll be willing to defend more, and you still have Caicedo then in the midfield with Enzo Fernandez, and I think ultimately that ended up being a good tactical decision.
I think I could give this a moment of the match as well, but since I gave it to Cucurella lacing up his boots, we'll give this a second mini moment of the match. Because, when I saw that Lavia was coming out at halftime, I thought, Enzo Maresca, what the hell are you doing? Lavia was the only good player in the back line and midfield during that tumultuous period in the beginning of the match for Chelsea. He held things together with, put his team on the back for that 15, 17 minutes, whatever. And then once the second half started, you could see what was happening. Essentially, what he did was take all defensive responsibilities away from Cucurella. Inverting Cucurella gave him that ability to, like I said, not have to worry about defending, which he wasn't doing a good job of in the first half, and instead focus on being part of the attack, which he can do very well. And then that also opened up things in the midfield for essentially Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez with how the shape was shaping up. So that really threw Spurs off. And like I said, I didn't think Spurs were going to be able to keep it up, but they really fell off a cliff at the start of that second half and were outsmarted tactically and just started off dreadful.
Yeah, and to be fair to Cucurella, he picked it up going forward on the attack in the start of that second half. Him and Sancho, their partnership this year has been pretty unbelievable at times. 48th minute, they kind of have a give and go where Cucurella gets the ball back to Sancho in the box there, and without a brilliant save by Forster, that's a second goal and a brace on the day for Jadon Sancho. So in that first 15 minutes of the second half, I kept saying, how have we not scored a goal here? They had many chances. It really felt like one was coming. So I'm not surprised when they were able to get one in the 61st minute, I believe, where you saw just a dreadful tackle by, was it Basuma, I want to say, for Spurs on Caicedo in the box. I don't really know what he was thinking doing that.
Yeah, I also thought that Chelsea, a Chelsea goal was coming beginning of the second half. They had multiple chances, and it looked like they were building and starting to control possession, and everything was going wrong for Spurs. Icing on the cake is that horrible challenge in the box, clear penalty.
Yeah, clear pen. Live, I really couldn't tell for sure. Tough to tell. Caicedo instantly went down, but then kind of was celebrating as well. So he obviously knew it was a pen, but wasn't injured by it, which I kind of respect because most players just go down and act like they've been shot, absolutely sniped from the stands. Whereas
Simulation.
Caicedo, right, exactly. And that's almost why it was weird because you're so used to guys just going down in pain. But man, Cole Palmer, this guy is the player in the world. Kane's up there as well, but has not missed a pen in his entire professional career. I believe he's 17 for 17, 12 of 12 in the Premier League, and we'll get to that second one after he makes his 11th for Chelsea in this 61st minute. And I thought it was a really clean pen. He's been going to the right a lot and low. This time he goes left high enough where even if the keeper dives that way, I don't think he gets to it. So just a real nice, efficient pen there.
Yeah, great for Palmer to get that pen. And I thought up until that point, Palmer was having an underrated match in terms of not really showing up on the score sheet, but still contributing. So it was good to see him break through there and really, as we come to see, open things up.
Opened right up in a lot of ways in this game. I expected chaos. I'm thinking, okay, I predicted 2-2. It is 2-2, but zero chance it remains 2-2. And I couldn't have been more right because this game was chaotic. Anthony Taylor really never got control of the players. You got Spurs fans that are so classless, so disgusting, throwing trash, all these items on the field. Just really, really disgusting to see. Am I surprised? Not in the slightest. But, yeah, this game, you knew something crazy was going to happen. And, we've already had one moment of the match in the equipment room. We've had a couple mini moments of the match, but really, for me, the ultimate moment of the match comes in the 73rd minute. This moment might have been straight out of a courtroom, lawyers signing papers. You'll know what I'm saying when I say the name of the player, Enzo Fernandez, with a brilliant left-footed kind of half-volley goal off essentially an assist from Palmer. Not quite because of a deflection, but I went insane at this goal. Enzo Fernandez is the man right now.
Yeah, he's had a run of matches that have been absolutely stellar. I also want to give a lot of credit to Palmer there because I couldn't even tell that it deflected off somebody. It must have been the slightest deflection. It looked like a beautiful, beautiful cross into Enzo, who, again, credit to Enzo, had to do something which isn't easy and volley a ball coming in out of the air and still have the accuracy to place it past the keeper. I mean, what an awesome moment. And at that point, you knew that Chelsea wasn't looking back. Things were going downhill for Spurs as soon as the second half started. And it really, it was going from bad to worse. Things were piling on. And at that point, yeah, Chelsea kind of puts the nail in the coffin.
And this is where Palmer was toying with the defense. He slithers in there to get to the Enzo goal, makes a ton of defenders look clueless, and then 10 minutes later, the way he can control the ball in the box, I didn't even really see the replay on this second penalty that ends up happening, but it's because Palmer's got the ball on a string, and defenders are trying their best to get it away, and somebody ends up clipping him again, and really just disappointing if you're a fan of Spurs at this point because you've already blown a 2-goal lead and now your rival is just playing with you essentially.
Yeah, I thought it was a pen. And I think you got to say it's a pen if Anthony Taylor, the Chelsea-hating referee, is going to give a penalty to Chelsea there. But every single corner that was happening, every time Chelsea players were on, near the goal on that side of the pitch, Tottenham fans were just throwing whatever they had at Chelsea players on the pitch. It was, worse than a Bundesliga match where fans are protesting and throwing candy and toys and everything on the pitch to, bring attention to a cause. It was just Spurs fans throwing shit at Chelsea.
Cheeky and electric and incredible from Palmer to do a Panenka on that pen to set the record in the Premier League for most pens in a row without missing at 12. And really just an FU to Spurs fans for how they were behaving. And to be honest, I'm surprised that Son's goal late in extra time even got in the goal because there was so much trash in Sanchez's goal there. I mean, it was littered with garbage and these cards that they were throwing out, whatever they were. It was clearly a plan before the game for all these fans to do. But yeah, that goal by Son there, I'm surprised a piece of trash didn't block it from going in.
Yeah, or at least deflect it. And then, do you not give him the goal?
It'd be insane if it actually happened where some trash or an object stops it. I don't know if that would go to review. I mean, it would be their own fault, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, what a way to cap off an electric, exciting roller coaster match for Chelsea, who's been hot, and I guess Spurs, who have been up and down all season long, from what I know.
Hot, hey, we got it.
Hot, yo, we got it.
Watched that last night, actually, so it's fresh on my mind.
I'm going to watch it tonight.
Just an iconic classic movie, Polar Express, of course, we're talking about. Hopefully you know. I forgot what I was going to mention. Oh.
Well, here, let me just pop in here and say I did watch Jack Frost last night, which, again, is another classic, Christmas style.
Jack Frost has an all-time song where they're giving each other gifts that aren't even really gifts. They're imagining that they're getting things.
Yep, because old boy takes all the riches of the village.
It's just what I always wanted.
It's just what he always wanted.
It's just incredible. I mean, the music in some of these claymation Christmas movies is unmatched. I know what I was going to mention, though. A couple subs did come in for Chelsea. Nkunku in the 76th. Thought Jackson was pretty poor on the day overall. Could have potentially had a goal and just wasn't his sharp self. Madueke comes in for Neto in the 86th minute. Right after Neto picks up a yellow, so he will be suspended for Chelsea's next Premier League match against Brentford. And then Vega and Felix come in late. Felix did actually have a pretty big impact because he got dusted by James Maddison, which led to Son's late goal. But nonetheless, just great to get a win against Spurs, especially coming back from 2-0. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that things ended better for Chelsea than they did for Jack Frost in that movie, because I actually forgot that Jack Frost doesn't get the girl at the end of that movie. You know, he becomes human to get with this villager. I can't remember her name, but you know, she gets swept away by the Golden Knight and marries the Golden Knight, and then Jack Frost just says, okay, I'll turn back into a fairy, a sprite, whatever he is, and, you know, go back to being Jack Frost. So weird ending there, but luckily for Chelsea, it was a better ending. And Chelsea is hot right now. You know, I mentioned this to you over text, but Enzo Maresca's gimmick of, we're never the favorites, we're never going to win these games, whatever. Not exactly what he says, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it can only go so long. I get it. It's a tactic. He doesn't want expectations on Chelsea. And to be fair, I think Liverpool is the best team in the world. I think it's right now. I think it's going to be incredibly tough for anybody to compete with Liverpool. City is City, so I'm not saying that Chelsea's going to win the Premier League, but they're second, and, you know, they're playing good. And, you know, when you're playing good, you have expectations. That's how it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your points there. Chelsea are hot. You know, I don't think Jack Frost could cool him down. I don't even think the cold Miser brother could cool him down at this point. Great song for them as well. I don't know if I showed you the Miser Brothers shirt that I got for myself and my sisters, but
which one are you?
Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily.
Both
I prefer the Heat Miser.
Yeah.
Just for his part in the song. And don't even get me started on Santa Claus is Coming to Town. The Winter Warlock, his song, putting one foot in front of the other. I mean,
it's an all-timer.
The music in some of these movies just tough to match. But yeah, Chelsea looking forward here. Have a Conference League match on Thursday, early morning here in the United States against Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. That will be very interesting to see who even makes the trip for that one. And then they go on the weekend back to the Bridge. Another London derby facing Brentford, the Bees. Hopefully they will not be buzzing next weekend. So interesting matches here for Chelsea. They, quite frankly, can go on a run of wins that will be insane.
Yeah, and good for them, you know. Now they just got to keep things up in the Premier League. Obviously in the Conference League, yeah, Astana, that's going to be one that we'll keep an eye out for, and of course keep you updated on with all the going-ons of both Chelsea and Bayern Munich in these upcoming midweek and weekend matches.
Should be an interesting week ahead, that's for sure.
All right, well, I guess I've got some more Christmas movies to watch and vegetarian chili to eat, so I might as well send us off. Mia san mia.
Up the Chelsea.